The year is 2025. Our technological innovation has reached new heights. We live in a world where everything is interconnected, from our homes to our workplaces. Smart devices, AI assistants, and automated systems have become integral parts of our daily lives. Yet we remain tethered to the lifeblood of our modern world, electricity. It powers our homes, our cities, and our very way of life. Imagine a world where that power source simply vanishes. No warning, no explanation, just an abrupt end to the energy that fuels our existence. On January 2nd, 2025, at the stroke of midnight, that unthinkable scenario became a reality. The world as we knew it changed in an instant. Across the globe, the lights flickered and died. Cities that never slept were suddenly plunged into darkness. The world was plunged into an unprecedented darkness. A silence that was both eerie and profound settled over the land. Cities, once beacons of civilization, went dark. Iconic landmarks, usually bathed in light, were now mere shadows. Streets, once illuminated by a million artificial stars, disappeared into the shadows. The familiar glow of streetlights was no more. In homes, offices, and bustling city streets, confusion reigned. People were left in a state of bewilderment, unsure of what had happened. The hum of electronics, a constant companion in our lives, was no more. The silence was deafening. Devices that once buzzed with activity now sat lifeless. Communication systems, our lifeline to the outside world, went silent. The networks we relied on for instant connection were down. Mobile phones became useless bricks in our hands. The frustration and helplessness were palpable. Televisions and radios, once purveyors of information and entertainment, sat silently, their screens blank. The usual sources of news and comfort were gone. We were instantly cut off from the world, shrouded in an unsettling quiet. The usual hustle and bustle of city life came to a standstill. The immediate impact was one of disbelief. People struggled to comprehend the magnitude of the situation. Many assumed it was a temporary outage, a minor hiccup in the system. They waited, expecting the lights to come back on any moment. But as minutes turned to hours, the terrifying reality began to dawn. This was no ordinary blackout. The lifeblood of our modern world, the invisible force we had come to take for granted, was gone. We were left to navigate a new, uncertain reality. The first week was a chaotic scramble for survival. People rushed to supermarkets, grabbing whatever they could find, their faces etched with panic and uncertainty. The initial shock gave way to a primal fear of the unknown. Families huddled together, seeking comfort in each other's presence, while others stared out windows, hoping for a sign of normalcy. With no electricity, there was no light, no heat, no way to cook food or store it safely. Darkness enveloped homes, and the cold seeped in, making every night a struggle to stay warm. The delicate balance of our modern lives was shattered, replaced by a desperate fight for basic necessities. People devised makeshift solutions, adapting to a new, harsh reality. Candles, a relic of the past, became precious commodities. Their soft glow provided a semblance of normalcy, a small comfort in the overwhelming darkness. They flickered in the windows of homes, casting long, eerie shadows that danced with the flames. The once decorative items now served as vital sources of light. Fireplaces, once decorative centerpieces, roared back to life, providing much-needed warmth. Families gathered around them, sharing stories and finding solace in the crackling flames. The smell of smoke, a forgotten scent of a bygone era, permeated the air. It was a reminder of a time when life was simpler, yet now it signified survival. Food became a major concern. Supermarket shelves were quickly emptied and people turned to non-perishables, anything that could last without refrigeration. Refrigerators, now useless metal boxes, could no longer preserve our perishables. Spoiled food became a common sight, a stark reminder of our dependency on electricity. People raided their pantries, stocking up on canned goods, dried fruits, and anything that wouldn't spoil quickly. These items became the new staples of our diet. The lucky ones, those with gas stoves, could still cook. They became the envy of their neighbours, able to prepare hot meals in a time when such a luxury was rare. Others resorted to open fires, a dangerous and time-consuming process. Makeshift outdoor kitchens sprang up and the smell of wood smoke filled the air. Water, too, became a precious commodity. People carried containers, queuing at public wells, their faces showing the strain of this new reality. With electric pumps out of commission, access to running water, became limited or non-existent in many areas. The simple act of turning on a tap was no longer possible. Lines snaked around public wells, a testament to our newfound vulnerability. People waited patiently, knowing that water was essential for their survival. The simple act of quenching one's thirst became a luxury. Every drop was cherished, and the value of water was understood in a way it hadn't been before. As the first month unfolded, the true extent of our dependence on electricity became horrifyingly clear. The intricate systems that underpinned our globalized world, systems we rarely stopped to acknowledge, began to unravel at an alarming rate. The global economy, built on a foundation of digital transactions and interconnected networks, ground to a halt. Banks, unable to operate without electricity, shut their doors. ATMs became useless metal boxes. Money, once the lifeblood of commerce, lost its meaning as people reverted to bartering for essential goods. Hospitals, once beacons of hope, were transformed into scenes of despair. Life-saving equipment reliant on a constant flow of electricity became useless. Surgeries were postponed, treatments were interrupted, and the sick and injured were left with little hope. The steady hum of medical machinery was replaced by the anguished cries of the desperate. Crime, once kept in check by surveillance systems and streetlights, began to rise. The darkness became a breeding ground for fear and lawlessness. Police, overwhelmed and understaffed, struggled to maintain order. The thin veneer of civilization, already cracking under the strain, threatened to shatter completely. The first year was a brutal lesson in adaptation. The world, as we knew it, had ceased to exist. The conveniences and luxuries we had come to take for granted were gone, replaced by a daily struggle for survival.
Yet, in the face of this adversity, the indomitable spirit of humanity began to shine through. Scientists and engineers, their minds hardwired to solve problems, turned their attention to finding alternative sources of energy. Solar panels, once a niche technology, became highly sought-after treasures. Windmills, a common sight in rural landscapes, took on a newfound importance as we sought to harness the power of nature. Agriculture, the backbone of any civilization, underwent a radical transformation. With modern farming equipment rendered useless, farmers were forced to return to traditional methods. Fields were plowed by hand, crops were harvested manually, and animals once again became our primary source of labor.
Daily life, once dominated by screens and gadgets, took on a slower, more deliberate pace. Families gathered around oil lamps in the evenings, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the flames. Children played board games, read books, and told stories, their imaginations ignited by the absence of electronic distractions. 5 years after the lights went out, the world was almost unrecognizable. The once vibrant cities filled with the hum of technology and the bustle of daily life had fallen silent. The absence of electricity had turned skyscrapers into dark monoliths, standing as eerie sentinels over empty streets. Cities, once teeming with life, stood as hollow reminders of a bygone era. The infrastructure that had supported millions now lay in ruins, overtaken by nature. Vines crept up the sides of buildings, and wildlife roamed freely where cars once dominated. With no electricity to power transportation systems or support massive populations, people had migrated in droves to rural areas, seeking self-sufficiency and a closer connection to the land. Small communities flourished as people relearned the skills of their ancestors, growing their own food and building their own homes.
Transportation had reverted to simpler, more sustainable methods. Horse-drawn carriages and bicycles became the norm, as people adapted to a slower pace of life. The roads, once clogged with traffic, now saw the gentle clip-clop of hooves and the quiet whir of bicycle wheels. Steam-powered trains, once a symbol of a bygone era, chugged back into service, their plumes of smoke a visible reminder of our reliance on alternative energy sources. These iron giants, with their rhythmic chugging, became the lifelines connecting distant communities. Horses and carriages, once relegated to the pages of history books, became a common sight on once busy streets. The return to these traditional modes of transport brought a sense of nostalgia and simplicity to daily life.
Education, too, had undergone a profound transformation. The digital age, with its online classes and virtual learning, was a distant memory. Schools and universities had to adapt quickly, turning back to the basics. With the internet nothing more than a distant memory, schools and universities adapted, relying on books, blackboards, and the power of face-to-face interaction. Students engaged in hands-on learning, and the classroom became a place of lively discussion and debate. Teachers, once facilitators of information, became invaluable sources of knowledge, their lessons passed down through lectures and discussions. The personal connection between teacher and student was more important than ever, fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation for learning.
Life was simpler, slower, and in many ways more fulfilling. Without the constant distraction of technology, people found joy in the little things. Family gatherings, community events, and traditional activities became the highlights of daily life. The relentless pursuit of progress had been replaced by a focus on community, sustainability, and the simple joys of life. Local markets thrived, and community gardens became a source of pride and sustenance. We had been forced to confront our vulnerability, our dependence on a fragile infrastructure, and in doing so, we had rediscovered the resilience of the human spirit. Communities came together, rebuilding not just their homes, but their way of life, creating a new world from the ashes of the old.